Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Loving Jolly Reaction. I want us to watch this combination of clips. Kindly watch till the end and I'll be back with more comments. This video is for education purposes and all credits goes to the original creator of the videos.
Living in America right now feels like a punishment. You wake up already behind, you go to work just to stay broke, and you watch the cost of everything rise while your paycheck doesn't move an inch. Groceries are a luxury, rent is robbery, healthcare is a joke, and somehow we're the ones blamed for not budgeting better. People are working 2, 3 jobs and still choosing between food or gas. Families are crammed into apartments because buying a house became a fantasy. You can't afford to get sick, you can't afford to rest, you can't afford to exist. But they keep telling us the economy's strong. Strong for who? Because it sure as hell isn't the people doing the work. We're out here treading water while billionaires build rockets, politicians trade stocks, and corporations raise prices just because they can. We were promised opportunity, we got survival. And what makes this worse is watching people blame themselves. Like somehow you failed because you can't afford a 1-bedroom anymore. Like you didn't do enough when the truth is the math just stopped adding up years ago. They told us to work harder, but never told us they'd change the finish line. This isn't a country full of lazy people. It's a country full of exhausted ones. Simple as that.
Have you ever noticed that everything Donald Trump touches turns to a big pile of steaming shit? It doesn't matter if we're talking about the economy, foreign policy, domestic policy, even something so simple as manners. It goes from being thriving and robust to a big stinking pile of caca. Why aren't Americans out on the streets protesting Trump's policies like they do over in Europe? Well, I'll take a shot at answering that. I'm not an expert, but I have opinions on the subject. If you're willing to listen, I'm willing to share. To begin with, I think there's a significant group of Americans who are simply apathetic. They don't care. They're willing to let the next guy handle it. They don't want to stick their necks out. There is yet another group of Americans who are simply so beaten down by the struggle of day-to-day life in this country that they don't have the energy to care. If you're a banker, if you're an attorney, if you're an engineer or an architect, a medical professional, or if you're in one of the specialized trades like electrical or plumbing, you can make a very good life here. But if you're not, there's a good chance you're struggling. And when you come home at night after that second job, all you want to do is collapse on the couch and put your feet up. You don't want to go out marching. I think Americans tend to have a negative perception of protesters, probably stemming from the days of the Vietnam War, when college students were out in the streets clashing violently with police. Americans, despite all the braggadocio and bravado, are a fairly docile bunch of people. They do what they're told. Additionally, there can be negative consequences for protesting in this country. For example, American corporations are incredibly sensitive to how they are perceived in the public eye. If it became known that a group of their employees was out marching in the streets and waving signs, there might be negative consequences. Those employees could face severance. I had a boss one time tell me that he didn't want to see me out marching in gay pride parades. It happens. Additionally, there's the risk of physical harm. It wouldn't surprise me at all to hear that a group of MAGA brown shirts had descended on some protesters and tried to beat them up. And you have to remember that Americans are armed to the teeth. Guns are everywhere. In my state, you can carry a gun in your pocket without a permit or a license. But I think the biggest reason that Americans are not out protesting in the streets about Trump's policies is that they agree with them. I know that sounds incredible, but it's true. This is an aggrieved group of people who do not want the nation sharing its wealth with other countries. They feel like America has been taken advantage of by other countries. They are tired of seeing us give away our money and our resources to other countries. They don't want people from other countries coming over here to take advantage of the benefits and the opportunities that we have. They don't want to share. Back in World War I or World War II, you would have called these people isolationists. They don't want to get involved. They don't care what happens to Ukraine. They don't care what happens to Taiwan. They don't care what happens to Europe. They simply want to keep everything to themselves. In order to understand the American mindset, you have to know something about the way Americans live, because it is dramatically different than the way people in Europe live. In Europe, people read books, they go to museums, they travel, they're exposed to other cultures, other languages, other lifestyles. They're much more cosmopolitan in their perception of how the world exists and how we all get along with each other. Here in the States, it's completely the opposite. If you watched American TV commercials, you would think that we spend our discretionary time out rock climbing or kissing under the stars or roping cattle or doing any number of things that keep us engaged with each other. The fact is, we don't live like that at all. In America, people adore technology, and they have been seduced by media. And by media, I don't mean the news media, I mean the medium itself. Television, movies, the internet, video games. They spend a great deal of their discretionary time consuming media. And the problem with America's fascination with technology and its adoration of media is that it can be very isolating. For instance, in America, you don't have to go to an office building to work anymore. You can work from home. You don't have to go to the grocery store or to the department store to pick up your goods. You can just have them delivered. You don't have to go out to a restaurant to enjoy a meal. Have it delivered to your house. You don't have to go to a movie theater to watch a movie. Just stream it on your computer or your TV. So Americans spend a great deal of time home alone. They are not exposed to a multiplicity of cultures or languages or experiences. They're home alone. And because this technology allows them to do it, they can curate their information sources so that they only hear the information that they want to hear. In other words, their biases are confirmed over and over and over. So in Europe, where you have large groups of people living in close proximity to each other, with a variety of cultures, a variety of languages, and a variety of worldviews, here in the United States, you tend to have people living in silos and echo chambers of confirmation bias. Is it any wonder that Americans live in such extreme conditions? There's no middle ground in this country anymore. You're either extreme left or extreme right. The middle ground has been eliminated by the technology that enables people to be alone all the time. We've basically become a nation of angry sociopaths. And that's why people don't get out and protest, because they agree with Trump is doing. Trump appeals to their confirmation bias. The country is like an open wound, and Trump is quite literally the infection that is exploiting that open wound. So if you're wondering why Americans don't protest, I think that's why.
So it's make Argentina great again. It's make Israel better. It's anything but America first. And now he's going to take away food stamps the whole month of November. And let me tell you what, 1 out of every 5 people that are on food stamps are veterans. They have fought for this country, and President Trump is punishing poor people for the No Kings rally. That's what he's doing. See, President Trump doesn't want to be president anymore. He wants to be the king. He's already established everything that he has to do. And look, you've seen what them young Republicans were writing, and you've seen that guy come out and say, well, this is just what all Republicans do and say behind the scenes. It's no big deal. This is how we all feel. They're all racist, male chauvinist, pedophiles, and now they want us to accept that. Look, President Trump's ratings are dropping like the rent on a burning building. He doesn't care that you don't agree with what he's doing. He's just going to start punishing the poorest of us all. And that's making America great.
I'm at the point in my life where I feel like if this is not fucking rock bottom, I don't know what is. Because I told my director, I told everyone my situation. I have 6 days to figure out a second job, and then the job that I have now just cut me back to part-time. I have 3 kids. I'm about to be fucking homeless. And I don't know what to do. Like, I told them my situation, and they basically were like, let's kick this bitch while she's down. So now it looks like I'm going to be finding 2 jobs instead of just having to find another one. I feel like this is never going to get better. I fucking hate being an adult, and my life have I struggled this fucking bad, and this is the most money that I've ever made. Oh.
I'm really starting to think that Trump is purposely trying to destroy the U.S. economy and get America to collapse the way the USSR did, so that him and his billionaire buddies can buy everything up for pennies on the dollar and turn us into a full-blown oligarchy the way Russia did after the USSR collapsed. That's the only thing that makes sense in my brain, because everything that he is doing is isolating America from its allies. He is destroying trade on the world stage with us and all of the people we do trade with. I mean, China's putting exports on restrictions on all of their rare earth exports at this point. There's literally nothing that he's done since he took office that is good for the American people or the American economy. Everything that he has done has been for billionaires and has been at the detriment of the U.S. as a country. Like, our entire workforce is being decimated now as he is sending a whole bunch of people out of the country who used to do jobs like construction and farming. So we're going to have a food shortage because there's not enough people picking the food. We're going to have a worse housing problem because there's not enough people building the houses. And it literally seems like everything that he is doing is just designed to destroy this country. And yet the MAGA people are still licking his boots. It's wild.
America is falling behind. When an authoritarian regime attacks academia, science, news reporters, free speech, students, the best and the brightest leave. The same thing happened in Germany, in Russia, in Greece, and it's happening here. And this hurts the country because all of the talent is going elsewhere to help another country.
This isn't me trying to fearmonger, this is just me trying to prepare you. The US economy right now is like a Jenga tower with 18 fucking pieces missing. We are one piece pulled out away from everything just toppling down. AI was responsible for 40% of US GDP growth this past year and 80% of US stock growth. And the manufacturing industry has contracted for 7 consecutive months, while every other economic indicator is saying this is as bad as things have been since 2009. Now, when you have a sentence that says the economy is as bad as it's been since 2009, you are fucked. So again, this is not me fear-mongering, this is just me preparing you. Our economy is in a very bad place. If you have a job, hold on to it with everything you have.
Bankruptcies are skyrocketing. Right now, more trucking companies are going bankrupt, more restaurants. Farm bankruptcies are up 35% higher than 2024. Hi, today is your update in the economy. It's October 12th, 2025. We are day 12 of the government shutdown. Our economy is collapsing every single day. Look at this. Airports are a disaster. Last time we had government shutdown in 2018, we lost $3 billion every week in travel alone. Let's not forget about the safety. Donald Trump fires over 4,000 government workers, and now museums and all that stuff in Washington are closed. Washington has an unemployment rate of 6% before the government shutdown. Expect a catastrophic crisis in Washington. We have lost over 1 million jobs this year. Inflation is 2.9%. Groceries are up 29%. We are in a recession in 22 states. We are in a recession in construction. We are in a recession in manufacturing. The stock market tanked on Friday, dropping 900 points. Drop a comment below if you want to stay on the algorithm to get your update on the economy and the stock market on Monday, October 13th.
The U.S. Department of Labor released a memo just a few days ago explaining that Donald Trump's policies are in fact already ruining your lives, but they're about to actually make your life so much worse to the point where you may not even be able to purchase food. And again, this is coming from the United States Department of Labor under Donald J. Trump himself. His own Labor Department had to put out this memo or letter or whatever it is you want to call it to warn Americans that this guy is ruining your life. And of course, he's doing it, according to the Labor Department, by deporting all of the farm workers in the United States. We already have a massive shortage of labor on American farms. We have had farmers, representatives come out and tell us that. The farmers themselves have come out and told us that. We don't have people to go out there and do the work. To pick the crops, to till the fields, to plant the seeds. We don't have human beings to do that now because of Trump's policies. And a lot of those people voted for those policies. But as I've always said, I'm on the fence about sympathy because when the farmers go under, all of us are affected. If it were just them suffering the consequences of their votes, you get what you vote for, right? But their suffering leads to suffering for all of us. So, we're all in the same boat on this one because every human being on the planet has to have food to survive. And we're at a point, according to the Labor Department, you may not be able to afford it anymore. Here is what they said. The current and imminent labor shortage, exacerbated by the near total cessation of the inflow of illegal aliens, increased enforcement of existing immigration law, and global competitiveness pressures described below, presents a sufficient risk of supply shock-induced food shortages to justify immediate implementation. The lack of undocumented and documented workers results in significant disruptions to production costs and threatening the stability of domestic food production and prices for U.S. consumers.
I'm going to make a video that is very high level in finance, but needs to be redirected to as many eyeballs as possible because this is eventually going to affect everyone, including yourself. And this is not a doom and gloom. This is simply just a high level overview of what is coming and what the impacts will have on your life. I've made videos about this stuff before, but they've been very in-depth. So I want to make a video that is much higher level overview to give everyone an understanding for themselves and how they can prepare. On August 11th, the United States national debt surpassed $37 trillion. Now you might ask, well, why is this really important? Well, October 2025, or September, I guess you could say the end of September, is when the national debt, or essentially the fiscal year 2025 ended. And we ended at a debt of $37.6 trillion, which means in a month and a half, we added another $600 billion to the national debt. The United States economy, when you look underneath the surface, it isn't doing too hot. Again, I'm not going to go into the weeds, but when you look into the data, it's really not actually doing that hot. And with that, we have 10 companies, 10 tech companies that are keeping the economy, quote unquote, afloat. Problem with this is it's very much looking very bubble-ish, very 2001, very 1929-esque. Now, the problem with this is the United States government has way too much debt. We are at something called a debt to GDP ratio of 125%. I think it's a little more now, like 125.4%. The reality of the situation is if the United States economy takes a turn downward because these companies aren't able to produce the results that they're essentially being invested into at the valuations that they have, or essentially you can put it in terms of like they're looking as shiny as they can be, and if they're not as shiny as they actually are later down the road, then everything in the market could essentially pop. Now the problem with this is the United States economy, or the United States government, has been a backstop. The United States government does not have the financial capability to backstop this bubble popping. And the genuine concern is that if this bubble pops, the United States government will not be able to it will not be able to bring in the money that is able to then fund the government, the debt itself. And so typical things like Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, the largest expenses to the government will have to start dwindling. Now, if this gets even more severe, how does this start to affect the socio-political sphere? And what if the money itself for things like subsidies of energy, like oil, or subsidies for things like food, what if that starts getting affected and farmers can't produce the food that we need, and oil companies can't produce the energy that we need, and we have essentially a sell-off and the inability to fuel the people that we have? What happens then? And genuinely, I would typically say, hey, the United States will be able to get through this. Humans have ingenuity, and we have the ability to see the problems, be able to work around the problems, create solutions to the problems. But the only caveat to this is when you have a problem, it tends to be something that's a little more concrete. But what we're talking about now is not a concrete problem. What we're talking about is a system failure, a point where the actual government, the entire thing that we know of collectively as what we all bank on as being secure, pops and it goes away. And that's the genuine concern. And so the spiral looks like this. The hype gets real in artificial intelligence that it's going to be able to boost productivity and help us grow out of the national debt. Then the productivity, the AI bubble pops instead of it being a real boom. And then that spirals over to the government not having the capital or the money to be able to fund the debt. And then the debt spirals, and then the debt causes the United States government to go insolvent. And then the entire populace turns into a socio-political, violent collapse. This definitely isn't a conversation you want to have over a dinner table. But again, more people need to be aware of this situation, because it is a process that is playing out right in front of our eyes. So let's talk about it now before the situation actually is around the corner.
I want us all on the same page. The reason there may not be any SNAP benefits in November is because Trump cut the budget to the USDA, which runs SNAP. Not only that, he basically gutted the emergency funding for SNAP. It went from billions of dollars to $500 million. Now, during Trumpy's first term, we had the longest shutdown in the history of this country, but SNAP benefits were never threatened. Why? Because the USDA was fully funded to include emergency measures, which paid for SNAP benefits. Now, millions of Americans may go without their SNAP benefits because of Trumpy's cuts. And remember, just a few months ago, they told us they were no longer going to report the status of hunger in this country. Because if you can't prove you're hungry, nobody's going to give a fuck.
All right, so SNAP is going away in November. There's no more money. I was at No Kings yesterday, and I was talking with a federal worker who runs a welfare office. And he was telling me that him and his staff have been training for de-escalation, because there are going to be some very angry people going to that office asking why their kids are going hungry. You know, they're going to be very angry, and this is going to be people's breaking point. Like that's just all there is to it. And especially for November, when it's supposed to be a time about food, especially around Thanksgiving. So all I'm going to say is, if you see somebody grabbing up some food, trying to run away with it, no, you didn't. You didn't see shit. If you see somebody desperately trying to get food, you did not see a damn thing. You were paying attention to your children. You got focused on the products that you were browsing. You have a hard time hearing. You know, I'm deaf in my left ear. I can't hear very well, especially directional hearing. My directional hearing is bad. You know, or maybe you're having some temporary blurry vision. You didn't see shit. You saw nothing.
Welcome back, and I hope you have watched those combination of clips and you have seen how white Americans are furious. You have seen how white Americans are regretting. You have seen how they have come out in large numbers crying and begging for help. We have seen so many clips emerging on internet where white people are begging for help. They are crying, they are devastated, they don't know what next, they don't know where to go to, they don't know where to run to, they don't know where their help will come from. And we have seen on the other side, the black people are silent. They haven't come out and spoke anything concerning this matter. They haven't come out and saying that they are facing economic crisis, like the white people have come out in large numbers and saying that they are now suffering. They are facing economic crisis. They want the government to intervene to their situation. We have seen even the white Americans coming out and saying that they want to tell the DC that this situation is unacceptable. But we haven't seen even black American coming, even one black American coming out and begging for help, or saying that they have lost their jobs, or they have lost their investment, or they have lost their livelihood. But we have seen so many white Americans coming out in large numbers saying that now they are jobless, now they are bankrupt, now they are poor. We have seen so many of them saying that they have lost their lifetime investment, they have lost their heritage, they have lost their jobs, because the company that they were working on, or the farms that they depended on, now it has nothing to offer them. We have seen so many of them saying that to reaching now, they are being forced to work overtime. Others are saying that they are being required to work for 40 hours so that they can earn some more money to cater for their needs. And they're saying even if they are working for overtime or for more hours to cater for their needs, the money that they are being paid is not enough to cater for their needs. We have seen so many of them coming out in large numbers and saying that it has reached to an extent that they can't even afford to buy some grocery. The living cost has risen to an extent that they are left poor. They can't afford to buy some grocery to cater for their families. Others are saying that now they are familyless. Their marriages have broken. Others are saying that their partners they don't want them again because they don't have money to provide for their needs. We have seen so many of them coming out in large numbers crying. In other hand, we have seen the MAGA farmers coming out in large numbers crying and begging for help. They want the government to intervene and stop this trade war that is going on with their market partner, which is China. Now China doesn't want to buy their products. They are devastated. They don't know where to take their products to. We have seen others are saying that they don't have workers to work on their farms anymore. These people voted for this system so that this government can deport some immigrants and some Democrats. They didn't knew that these immigrants are the ones who are working for their farms. Now they don't have people to work for their farms. Is when they are coming out in large numbers and begging the government to return those immigrants who they deported. And we have seen so many clips on the internet on how the black people came out and warned the white people not to vote for this system. But these people came out in large numbers to vote for this system because they wanted to punish the black people so badly. Now they are the ones who are coming out and saying that the black people should come and join them hands together so that they could show the government that they are suffering. But the black people are silent. We haven't seen even one black people coming out and saying that he or she is supporting the white Americans. The government should intervene and find some help to show the white Americans. We have seen white Americans saying that they are wondering why these black Americans are silent while they are suffering. This economy is being harsh on them. But we know for the black Americans have been suffering for all over 100 years. But these white people were there, but they didn't came even on a single day and shook hands together with these black people, showing that they are in solidarity. But now they are the ones who want the black Americans to show them some solidarity. But the black Americans are silent. They haven't spoke anything. They are watching and laughing at white Americans because they say that they want them, but these people didn't listen. They refused to listen. They voted in for racism. Now they are saying that racism is expensive. They voted in for this government so that the black Americans should could be deported. Now they are seeing that the effect of deportation on their farms. They're saying that if they didn't lose their products or they didn't lose their properties, they will celebrate for this government. Now the dream of America is dying slowly by slowly. Now if you want to go and live in America, you should have some more cash, because the Americans is left for rich people and people who have so many dollars and money. So the economy is favoring those people, but this low life or middle class people, the economy is being harsh on them. But we have seen this system, this governance, or the people who are in this government, they haven't even spoke anything. They are silent. They are listening these people and they don't want to help them. They are silent on them. But these people voted for Donald Trump and they knew this person is not good. They were being told that you should not vote for this person again, but these people, they didn't listen. They were being called or blackmailed by Donald Trump's promises. Now they are saying that they haven't seen even one promise that Donald Trump promised them. Guys, if this is the first time for you to come across my video, please comment, like and share. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and I will see you on my next video. Bye bye. God bless.